Good morning. I'm so glad that you found your way to my channel. My name is Tiffany Smith, and I am a nurse who also happened to have a bilateral joint replacement and three-piece Lafort with Dr. Movahead in September of 2024. And ever since that experience, I have made it my personal mission to provide educational materials for other people like me that are out there just trying to find their way in this really scary big world. This is episode 5 of the Silver Lining series. I am going to go ahead and share my screen with you guys now. All right. So this is a special series I've been working on. I will say this episode is probably going to be very long, by like 30 to 40 minutes. I would recommend perhaps putting this on when you're cooking or doing something, unless you feel like just planting yourself on your couch for the next half hour. I've worked really hard on this one. I'm super excited about it. This is transforming my experience into your empowerment. And I do want to give a little disclaimer that this is just recommendations based on my own personal experience. I am a nurse, but I am not a certified therapist or dietitian. Um, so everything that I recommend or suggest, run past your healthcare team as an option for you. And so let's get into it. Before we begin with our topic for the day, um, I discovered this past week a concept called Prehab, which really encompasses most everything that I have been teaching about on my Facebook page and my YouTube channel. And it's this idea that we as patients can be educated and prepared for surgery ahead of time, and especially in this process where we're waiting way too long for our surgeries. That length of time feels atrocious, but it's also a little bit of a gift. And it takes a bit of a mindset shift to be able to do that. But it is an opportunity to really prepare ourselves mentally, emotionally, and physically. And recently I went to the American Holistic Nurses Association conference. And sorry, I'm dog sitting right now. So if I seem distracted, it's because we are parenting. Um, the American Holistic Nurses Association conference. And I loved this analogy that one of the presenters gave. Our body's ability to manage stress is a little bit like having an internal bank account. And we put deposits into that bank account every single day by the nutrition that we choose, the sleep we give our bodies, the exercise and movement we treat ourselves with, how we manage our stress, and then how we pursue mental and emotional health. And I've kind of hit on all of those topics a lot, but I've never had a framework to explain why. And so I just got so excited when I was given this analogy. I just had to share it with you guys. And it's really the structure for how I'm presenting this today. It provides the structure along with this concept of prehab. So all of our choices are either adding to this balance or withdrawing from this balance. And then when we're stressed, our body pulls from this balance to manage the stress. And this really helped me understand why sometimes if I get 5 hours of sleep, I feel fabulous. And other times, if I get 5 hours of sleep, I feel like trash. And it has more to do with how much is in my bank account than it does the actual act. And so, as we're going through all of this material, there's no one size fits all. And I think that's the beauty of it is we get to be empowered to explore what fills our own bank account and then how do we pull from it. So keep that in mind as we pursue this presentation. I want to give credit to Dr. Sunil Kumar and Doctors Tony Brunning. They wrote this book that I am halfway through right now. I just found it this week. But it is called The Power of Preparation for Surgery. They're out of the UK. They are both anesthesiologists and board certified lifestyle medicine specialists. And they talk a lot about these pillars and things that I want to discuss today. And again, it really presented this idea of prehab to me as I was going through their book. So, what are we going to talk about? First is as you're preparing for surgery, it's really important to do a reflective self-assessment. We're going to dig into what that means. Second is nutrition. Thirdly is how we're moving our bodies. We're going to talk about mental and emotional well-being, community, sleep, and stress management. So starting with reflective self-assessment, these are some questions that I have crafted based on my experience as a nurse, really. I think it's really important as patients to understand what we value when we walk into our provider's offices and what our expectations are. So that's really the aim of these questions. And I've presented them in a Likert scale, which means you choose like that 1 through 5. So the first thing to ask yourself before you walk into your provider's offices is, how do you want to be involved in making decisions? On one end, you want to help make all detailed medical decisions about your care. And on the other end is you prefer that your provider take the lead. I get to round with the doctors very consistently in my job as a nurse, and this value really shows up a lot when doctors are explaining all of the test results to a patient's family. I'm a pediatric nurse and patient, so it's always caregivers involved. And the providers will list out everything that they have found and then possible treatment options. And some of the providers will then ask the caregivers, what do you want to do? Some caregivers love that question. They feel like they're being included in the care team, their voice matters, and they have a lot of ideas about how they want their treatment to proceed for their child. Other people, I've heard this direct quote, well, I don't know, you're the doctor, like you make the decision. So that's a classic example of two ends of the spectrum on what you prefer. There's no right or wrong answer to any of these questions, by the way. It's really just identifying them in yourself and then communicating that to your providers. And then if it's a topic that is so important that a provider isn't a good fit, then leaving that provider and finding someone else. And that's nothing personal. It's just part of building your care team. So the first topic is making decisions. Secondly, learning about your care. On one end, you would like to learn as much as possible. Give me every single detail. On the other end, I only want to know the most important facts. And the answers to these things can change as time goes on, but it is your job to know what you want when you walk into your doctor's office. So this is an important question to answer. The next one, how important is it to you that your providers are on time? If a provider is running late, I guarantee you it's because they are taking extra time with another patient. Some people feel very disrespected by that as they're waiting in the waiting room. Other people think about their position in the office when they're in with the appointment, and they feel seen and heard by having an extended appointment time for everything they need. So identify if your provider is one that is pretty on time or is running late. There's no wrong answer here. Some people will cut off their appointment time and say, hey, we're out of time. You're going to have to make another appointment if you want to talk further. And others will lengthen the appointment time for the time that the patient needs. So know that ahead of time. And if that's something that really matters to you, adjust your plans accordingly. It will help alleviate a lot of stress and friction between you and your providers in the relationship. What I want from my treatment. So this is specifically important in this craniofacial, oral maxillofacial realm. Some providers will only incorporate treatment, like surgical options that fix anatomical things like your bite and alignment, and others will they'll say, well, when I'm in there, if you want like a tuck or a lift. So if that's something that really matters to you, then make sure you ask your provider, like, do you do cosmetic surgery options along with the anatomical options? Some providers say yes, and some say no. So that's something that's really important to know before you go in, so you can make that expectation clear to your surgeon. Treatment style. Some of us want to try the easiest treatment first. We would prefer not to do like this super big surgery. So in my case, um, trying something less invasive than doing a total joint replacement. I chose to do the total joint replacement because I'm on the other end. I want treatment most likely to fix the problem, even if it's bigger. And part of that is because I had been on a 17-year journey by the time I made it to my doctor's office. So know ahead of time, and maybe you don't know, but consider that there's options for you and what matters to you. This next one here is trying new things. Some people would be really interested in being involved in medical studies, being creative and exploring solutions. Other people say, I want to do what has worked best for other people. Some surgeons don't offer this as an option, but again, if it comes up, it's something to know your answer to. Past doctor's visits. This one is so very important to me as a nurse. It makes me emotional to think about it. It is so important as the patient to tell your providers if you have past traumas or experiences that are impacting how you are showing up for your appointment or the time that we have together. A lot of times as a provider, we can feel when something is wrong, but we don't know what it is. And so if you've had an experience that is traumatic, and it doesn't have to be something that you would consider big, if it's anything that is making your heart race, making your palms sweat, distracting you from being able to pay attention because you are trying to cope through X, let us know. It just really impacts how we like show up for you. And when you show your humanity in that way, we're able to treat the whole person, not just the like anatomical thing that we're talking about in this appointment or the treatment plan that we're discussing. It matters so much to know if you have past traumas. On the other end, some people haven't had past experiences that are bothering them. Following my plan at home. I have what I need to follow my care plan at home versus my daily life makes it hard to follow my care plan. So these are a really broad umbrella of topics. And the reason why is it could like range from anything to I don't have a car to get to transportation to I don't have the money to pay for these appointments or these things. Um, a simple thing, I was recently discharging a patient who was non-English speaking, so we were working with a translator. And for this particular kiddo, it was really important that we not have fevers at home, and if we did have a fever, to be notified immediately. So I was teaching the parents about checking temperatures. This is the phone number to call. This is how you get the interpreter. There's always an added layer when there's a non-English speaking family. So I'm going through all that, and the parents are like, yes, yes, we understand. This is the fever, blah, blah, blah. And I randomly had this thought of asking, well, do you have a thermometer at home? And they were like, no, 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 we don't. But we'll get one. Well, I considered all the factors. It was like 5 or 6 p.m. They had a couple-hour drive home. They didn't have a vehicle, so they were reliant on Medicaid transportation, which has added layers. So I have a family that it's very important that their child not have a fever, who doesn't speak English, who doesn't have transportation, who doesn't have a thermometer, and I'm telling them to let me know if their kid has a fever. What did I do? I went and got one of our digital thermometers and gave it to them. It's very simple, but if I don't know that you don't have those tools, then I can't meet you where you're at, and it's going to break down before we even get started. So please let us know if you're not able to follow the care plan, but come at it with this problem solving strategy, not a I can't do it, so I won't. How I feel inside. It's very important to know if we're feeling hopeful and ready to try things, or if you are just so discouraged that it just feels like your life is over. And a lot of people in this journey have expressed feelings of suicidal ideation. Even if it's not something that you have an actual plan, please tell us that you are having these thoughts of wanting your life to be over. If you don't have a plan, like I think people are afraid to say these things because you don't want to be labeled a certain way or admitted. But if it's a thought or a feeling of just this dismal loss of hopelessness, that is so important to let us know so that we can meet you there. Hearing from others, this dips into this community piece a little bit. Hearing from other patients helps me, or hearing from other people's stories makes me feel more worried. For some people, they feel less anxiety with more information. Other people feel more anxiety with more information. And then there's just some open-ended questions I want you to consider before you go to your appointment. How can my providers make sure I feel comfortable and safe? Some people are afraid to ask their doctors or their nurses to hold their hands when they're falling asleep for surgery. Some people, all they need is a weighted blanket and everything's different. Other people, it's please give me the scent of lavender or I'm coming in with my essential oils. Little things really add up. So ask yourself what those are for you. I need to go backwards. I'm sorry. Apparently, if you click on the left side of the screen, it does that. And the last one, what are my hopes and expectations for this treatment? Last year at the Wind of Change conference that I was able to go to, one of the providers was asked about this topic, and he shared a really powerful story. He had a patient that came in and was asking about, well, they did a full assessment and saw that they had a really collapsed airway. They were apneic or not breathing multiple times a night. Their oxygen levels were dropping. And so the recommendation was the same surgery I had, a total joint replacement and a three-piece Lefort. It's a big, long process. This patient went through this entire journey, had the surgery, everything was successful, came in for a post-op appointment. All the imaging looked beautiful. The airway was nice and open, and the surgeon was so excited. And he came in saying, like, hey, how are you? What's going on? And this particular individual seemed very down and upset. And he said, you know, what's going on? And the patient said, well, it didn't work. And he's like, what do you mean it didn't work? Like, you're breathing beautifully now. And this particular person had first come into the office because they were no longer sleeping in the same bed as their partner because of their snoring. And as a result, that's what led them to the doctor's appointment. And after this entire 2-year journey, they were still snoring, so they were still not sleeping in the same room as their partner. But the surgeon was just crushed because he had no idea that was the patient's primary goal. And so, had that been the primary goal, sometimes snoring isn't corrected by fixing everything that this surgery corrects. Other times it is. But had this surgeon known this was the patient's primary goal from the beginning, they could have had a discussion about what to expect and maybe looped in other providers, maybe like an ENT or something having to do with sinuses. And so I just thought that was a beautiful story to illustrate, like really knowing what your goals are so that we make sure we address them and you don't feel disappointed after this entire process because it is way too much to go through to be disappointed at the end. All right, we've hung through with this self-evaluation. Next, we're going to talk about nutrition. Oh, I met the most incredibly beautiful human at the American Holistic Nurses Association conference this past year, and her name is Julie Daniluk. She is a registered holistic, let me make sure I get this right, nutritionist out of Canada. And she was the keynote speaker at the presentation I went to. And I was just ecstatic to learn about the work that she's doing. Her book, Meals That Heal Inflammation, is just so appropriate for our population because we are so inflamed. And actually, all of us are inflamed, regardless of whether or not we have healthy joints in our jaws. Um, this cookbook I definitely recommend. I will say she doesn't obviously have this lens of not being able to chew or having chewing difficulties, but gosh, the way that she addresses simple carbs and sugar and gluten, it's a lot of things that nutritionists and dietitians have been talking about, but she explains it in such a lovely way. I also recommend following her Instagram because she gives these little shorts that are just so helpful, really good meal substitutes. I will say, anytime that you're tackling nutrition, think again about this bank reserve that I talked about at the beginning. There's no one size fits all. And she actually said, she was like, there is no eating style that works for everyone. And if there was, we would have figured it out already. So give yourself grace in figuring stuff out. Um, she really recommends cutting out simple sugars. I have personally noticed that when I don't eat simple sugars, I feel better. Even 2 years post-op, I will have some pressure in my Le Fort right here. Um, and it flares up with sugar. So, but if my bank reserve is already full with all of these other areas that I'm pouring into myself, a little bit of sugar doesn't impact me as much. So it's not a no sugar ever, um, unless it makes sense for you. But for me, it's not a no sugar ever. It's a limited or pay attention to where I'm at with my bank reserve. Seriously, I loved her. This next book, I'm so excited. So I actually have one en route right now. This book is called The Ultimate Jaw Surgery Survival Guide, and it's by a registered dietitian by the name of Monica Bashaw. And the best thing, guys, get this. She has had a bilateral double jaw surgery. I guess that was redundant, bilateral and double jaw surgery. Um, but she just published this book this week. It's available on Amazon, and mine is en route right now. It comes with a workbook. I cannot wait to see it. But I think she really, at least in the description, she talks about how she talk like how you handle constipation after surgery. And this one does dig into the fact that we aren't able to chew. And gosh, I'm so excited at this resource that's available to us. Lastly, I'm sharing my little cookbook. It's called The Healing Table, Nourishing Recipes When Chewing Isn't Easy. And I didn't intend on publishing a cookbook. I just started exploring in the kitchen and writing down recipes and sharing it with people. And then she became a little baby book. So, also available on Amazon. It is an order of chewing progression. So it starts with liquids and like teas and broths, moves into smoothies, and then blended foods is the primary part of the book. Um, because the blended food section is so rough. Movement. Our bodies are made to move. And for a lot of us, our pain and our lifestyle has not let us invest in our bodies in that way. Many of us are caretakers. Like, we don't have time to invest in movement because we are so busy taking care of other people. So I found for me, when I am wanting to incorporate more movement into my lifestyle, it has to be something that's easily accessible and not intimidating. One of my favorite ways to do that is to find good resources on YouTube. Yoga with Adriene is my favorite yoga instructor on YouTube that I've encountered. She has so many videos and they're very accessible. You can do them from home with a yoga mat or a towel, and you can search by what area of your body you're wanting to target. If you want to do stress management, she has a series on weight loss. But she's a beginner yoga instructor, and she's so kind and so genuine. And a lot of her movies are like 20 minutes long. So I would say if you're a caretaker, maybe would you be able to incorporate these yoga workouts with your kids? Um, or is there maybe a time during the day that a friend or a partner or a parent can watch your kiddos so that you can start to move your body? Because the more you move your body before surgery, there's so much science that shows that you're going to heal so much faster afterwards. Um, Another way to move your body, like walking. Walking is so valuable. And when I was doing research for this PowerPoint, I found this group called Walk with a Doc. And this is the QR code for their website right here. They have chapters all over the country and set up these walks where you can walk with a physician so that you get the community and you get the accountability, but you can also build a relationship with a doctor that might be able to invest in you in other ways as well. I just thought it was really neat. So these are a couple of suggestions. Um, there's always gyms and no lack of information out there for people who are wanting to start to do movement. You just got to really find what works for you and start slow. With the invention of AI now, you can tell AI where you're at currently. So say like my goals are to prepare for surgery, which is an X number of months, or I don't know how far. I currently don't invest in any physical movement during my day at all. how should I start? These are my resources. This is what I can do. Um, Walking is such a great one. A lot of people recommend swimming, but swimming is so tough because you have to have a pool and it takes a lot of time. So don't choose something that's not realistic, and start slow. Mental and emotional well-being. So again, this is not a one size fits all for us. One of the things that I have found to be most helpful is meditation through this app called Insight Timer. I adore this app. I've shared it before. But you can go in, you see up at the top, there's that search bar. You can search for one specific topic, or you can navigate through their like portal through reducing stress and anxiety or meditation. What are your goals? Um, I was trying to find an app that was really, or a meditation that was relatable for a friend recently, and I searched meditation for dog lovers, and what do you know? Like there were multiple. So really get creative with it. I use this a lot before surgery. I typed in anxiety before surgery. I typed in pain, not being able to sleep, which I will revisit Insight Timer under the sleep category here shortly. So, mental and emotional well-being, one of them is this mindfulness. The next thing I want to share with you guys is this practice called forest bathing. It is an opportunity to be mindful in nature. In the formal sense, it is going to an experience with a guide, and it's about a 2 hour experience. There are a lot of certified forest therapy guides in the country and around the world. Again, it would be something you would Google. Um, but what you do is you go out and it can be anywhere in nature. It's not a strenuous exercise. Most of them you only walk about a mile and it's broken up over a 2 hour period. But the practice is just being intentional in nature. So you start with a sensory awareness meditation. And the goal of that is to just get out of our like head space and into our five senses and into our heart space. In today's modern culture, I think a lot of us are just in constant forward momentum. Think about that game we played when we were kids, red light, green light. If someone called red light when you were in forward motion, you would stumble forward. I think that our bodies are doing that on a cellular level. Like every cell in our body is in forward motion. So the goal of that sensory awareness meditation is to pull it in, be fully present and still. And it is so hard at first, but it is a beautiful practice to cultivate. After that sensory awareness meditation, the heart of the practice is three invitations that are crafted by your guide based on the goals of the group or what that guide feels in that natural environment or that space. So, an example would be wander out and notice tiny things in motion. And they give you, depending on the guide, 10 to 15 minutes to just go out and observe and be still. And nature just brings so many gifts in that way. After you do that, you come back, and a lot of guides give an opportunity to share what you saw, what you learned as a group. And then there are two additional invitations after that. This is an experience that most often you have to pay for. So if that is not accessible to you, there are some areas that are starting to do self-guided forest bathing. There's one here in Indianapolis at a facility called Connor Prairie, and they have stops along a trail. So you just go and they've got little invitations posted at different areas of their walking path. You can also search invitations for forest bathing on YouTube and just go out and do your own experience if having that community as a group isn't accessible for you. It is a lovely experience, though, having a guide. So I would recommend trying to do it if it's something that sounds interesting to you. Moving into community. Oh, so many beautiful things about community, but I would almost say it's one of the hardest because people are complicated. So it is so valuable to be vulnerable with your friends and family on this journey, really leveraging the relationships you already have. Be transparent about where you are. Like it's okay to tell your partner or your children, I feel like I'm failing you because, and that makes me feel sad. Or like, how many times did I feel like I wasn't fully present for the people that I loved because it was so hard just to exist through the pain? It's like having this like dark sheet over you, and you feel like you don't even genuinely know who you are, and other people certainly don't know who you are because you just you don't feel vibrant. It's like you're dulled or on like in black and white instead of color. And it's okay to tell the people you love that. Just saying it out loud just feels so like it just helps you feel seen. Um, Another thing I recommend is find real, tangible ways that people can help. We as people want to be there for our loved ones, and if we don't know how to help, we just create these own ways that we think would be helpful. And sometimes it's more about us than the person we're trying to help. And that's just human nature, I think. So, as the person going through the difficulty, it is our responsibility to tell people how we need help. An example of this is kind of what led to the birth of my cookbook. When I couldn't chew, people wanted to bring meals to me. And because of their perspective of what I wanted and what no chewing looks like, they were bringing foods that I didn't want. Um, I mean, a lot of processed foods, simple carbs, sugar. And at first, it felt really ungrateful to give them recipes and say, this is what I want to eat. But it actually is a beautiful thing to do for the people that you love because they're putting in effort to help you and they're going to feel more fulfilled when they're truly doing it in a way that's helpful. So speak up, tell them what you need. It is not selfish, it is advocacy. And that is so important. And the people we love want us to advocate for ourselves. On that note, you're going to have a lot of people asking how you're doing. For me, that was really challenging, especially at work. I'm a resource pool nurse, which means I go to every unit in my hospital. So I interact with hundreds of people on a weekly basis. And everyone is so kind and would ask how I'm doing in this journey. And the challenge for me was every time I would share where I was at, it was almost like reliving the experience for me. And it actually made me hurt more. Like I would start to feel the stress of the situation and it would cause pain. I was talking to my therapist about this, and it put me in a weird spot because I was grateful that they were asking how I was doing, um, but it made me hurt. And so she recommended the Facebook group, actually, is where that started. Um, and she said, it's okay to tell people, like, thank you for asking how I'm doing. Sometimes when I tell people how I'm where I'm at in the process, it gives me pain. And so I've created this Facebook group so that people who want to know how I'm doing can go in and just see my posts as I update them. Um, and that was such a gift to me because it gave me psychological permission to have a way out, essentially. So maybe a Facebook group isn't for you, but have a way to tell people what's going on because they're going to ask for updates, and that can be a cause of stress or pain for you as a person. Um, Another tip on your friends and family and community, allow your community to bless you financially. It is very hard to set up a GoFundMe for this surgery, but it is so expensive. And so if it helped me, a friend set up my GoFundMe account, which really helped me feel less, I don't know if ashamed is the right word. It just felt uncomfortable. And so, um, give your friends and family an opportunity to bless you financially. You're going to return the favor at some point in some way, and it might not be a financial way, but it's going to be something. Um, Community is about reciprocity, and right now we need help. And so it is so valuable to show the people you love how to be vulnerable, especially younger people around us and our partners. If they see us being strong through pain, and quote, I put strong in quotes, they're not going to think that they can be weak in pain. So show them it's okay to ask for help. Show them it's okay to accept help. It gives psychological permission to the people we love to be vulnerable as well. And it just makes such a beautiful relationship. Um, Adding to your community is super important. So that's where these Facebook groups come in. And for me, it has been so valuable and so important to have someone walking alongside me that understands what it's like to be on this journey too. You do need to set up some safeguards with these groups, though, which I want to get into a little bit. Know yourself. So, some people I've talked to have had to take breaks from the Facebook groups because they cause anxiety. And it's so good to know if that's where you're at and just to take a pause. Once you get back into that, there are some guardrails that you can set up to maybe combat that anxiety a little bit. And the first thing that I recommend to people is when you see someone post about a bad outcome or something that causes you anxiety, ask yourself, like, what is their diagnosis? And if their diagnosis is different from yours or their treatment was different from yours, then that is not a post that is relevant to you. The next thing I ask myself is, who is their treatment team? And a lot of this, the outcomes of this surgery is so dependent on who the surgeon is or who the orthodontist is. So many people are involved. So just look and see who did their surgery, who was part of their treatment team. If it's people that you're not going to be going to, again, it's not really relevant for you. Um, the next thing I ask myself is, can I tell how this person lives and how engaged they were in their outcomes? Because so much of this surgery, the outcomes of the surgery are dependent on us, which is actually a really empowering statement. Um, and sometimes you don't know the answer to this, but did they follow all the instructions? Were they engaged in getting their body ready for surgery before? Did they engage in all of the therapies afterwards? Did they follow the physician's restrictions for chewing, for exercise, etc.? Um, that really helped me asking those three questions when I was reading all of these bad outcomes in these groups. And then I always try to approach things with a problem-solving strategy and not a wallowing strategy. Um, Early on in this journey, I found myself saying, I can't a lot. I can't chew. I can't come because I'm in pain. The phrase I can't really makes you feel like a victim. And in some ways, we are victims to this circumstance, but like everyone goes through shit, you guys. Like, and so learning to be like build yourself up in this opportunity or is an opportunity to really change your language and empower yourself. So switching from I can't to this is difficult for me, but I can. I going out to restaurants was really challenging when you can't chew. So I switched from telling the server I can't chew, what can I have, to looking at the menu ahead of time, finding foods that looked like they were okay, and then just asking more questions about that particular item when I got there. And the server had no idea that I couldn't chew. But it just really reframed everything for me. So it's something to give a try, see how it feels, see if it works for you. But that's what I would recommend for navigating these Facebook groups. Um, Another thing for adding to your community is some employers have an employer assistance program that has free therapy or free consultations with nutritionists. Um, Check out what your employer offers or what your community offers. Um, See if that's something that you can add. I would recommend that everyone that is going through this journey get a therapist. She has made a world of a difference for me. Sleep. We're back to insight timer. So, sleep is the area that I am least good at in this entire process. You know, they always recommend 7 to 8 hours. Um, I'm not good at it, but I know that, and so that sleep is not the area that I'm like pouring into my bank account. What I will say is, especially before surgery, I was clenching every night, and that was really challenging. I also, as surgery got closer, was having atrocious nightmares all the time. So my sleep quality was trash, and I actually was not having breathing issues, but a lot of our community is. So sleep is really challenging. Um, Insight timer for me helped a lot. I started playing a meditation every night when I went to bed. You can also build your own like sleep soundscape on Insight Timer now. It's a newer feature to the app and it's free. Um, So I would really encourage you to check out Insight Timer. There's only so much you can do for sleep, but things that you can do will help. Stress management. This one makes me chuckle because this whole process is so stressful and it's not like a situation that you can remove yourself from. You're in it. The only way out is through. And so what I found for me, one was removing the phrase I can't from my vocabulary. Another was to use empowering phrases. So instead of saying like, I don't want to do this, I'm going to this appointment kicking and screaming, change your language. I do want to do this because I'm choosing it. Like it's so small, but it really, for me, made such a big difference. The other thing that I started paying attention to was when I'm feeling stressed, where in my body do I feel it? Does it manifest as jaw muscle tension or headaches, nausea, diarrhea, lack of appetite, not sleeping? Like, where is the stress manifesting in my body? And then I would ask myself, when is it happening? Am I noticing it when I'm telling people updates about how I'm doing? And do I need to modify that process, like I alluded to earlier? Um, am I waking up in pain? Am I going to bed in pain? When is it the worst? Oftentimes, the pain and stress are linked together. At least it was for me. So, really ask yourself those questions. And then that gave me the foundation to start pursuing some stress management options with the help of my therapist. If you aren't able to pay for a therapist right now, or have that as a resource, then a trusted friend can help process with you. I do really recommend that you take these things to a friend that is a problem-solving, positive friend. Not to say that we're like optimistic blindly, but there's a time for wallowing, but there's a time for problem solving. And wallowing is a derogatory term, really. But there is a time to sit in your pain and sadness, but you can't stay there. And so surround yourself with people that will let you have that moment, but then will give you a hand up to move through that moment and feel empowered as you're going through this process. None of this stuff is easy. So to wrap it all up, I wanted to share this video that I posted prior to surgery. I actually made it for myself. Um, I knew that getting through surgery was going to be really hard. And all of this prehab work that we're doing before surgery is also really hard. And so I wanted to share this video with you guys as the final thing for this presentation. Thank you for hanging with me for this time. I would love to hear your feedback on the YouTube channel or on the Facebook group. I'm always here for you guys. Um, you're not alone. So here's some final words from me before my surgery. Okay, I just wanted to make this video for me when I'm recovering after the surgery. Um, you made the right choice. Today, I just worked 4 out of 5 days, and I'm unwell. The pain, like my eyes feel like they're going to explode. My teeth feel like they're going to explode. It's just like so much pressure and then this like sharpness that's just shooting across, and I'm hungry and I'm just so tired. This is not a good quality of life. It's not, definitely not sustainable, and I'm sure recovery has been really, really hard, but um, it's not this, and it's gonna get better. So, good job doing the scary thing and having the surgery. And just remember that you don't want to live like this, okay? So good job, guys. You're here because you are already investing in yourself. You are taking time to do your research. Just know that it's all going to be worth it because you are so invested in your recovery. Thank you.